By the way, the Sixers, they came back to life. They came back from the dead last night. That was, look, obviously we want to hear from you. It's one of the more wild, I think, Philadelphia games we've seen in years. I mean, obviously a tale of two halves because it really felt like they were dead. Embiid looked like he was just unable or unwilling, but more unable. Let me be clear, more unable. And somehow there, he summoned it. He got tremendous help from Nic Batum, who was phenomenal. This was, I think, in a lot of ways, a very concerning game, but also in a lot of ways an encouraging game because, if they can just move forward and get Embiid right, then, you got a shot. Now, I want to see Maxey play better. Tobias, I'm done with him. Enough. All right, enough. But, John, they somehow did this. Now, Jimmy Butler's injury was a master stroke of luck. Without it, I think the Sixers would have lost. But John, where do you stand this morning on what we saw? And again, one of the most crazy games we have seen in years. 215-592-9494. Sixers and the Knicks Saturday night. John, what are you thinking here as far as last night goes?
I loved every second of it.
No, you didn't.
You didn't. The first half was horrible. We all hated it.
No,
stop.
The first hour and a half was...
It was mind-numbing. It was horrendous.
It was diarrhea.
Yes.
The first hour and a half of the game was diarrhea.
The word embarrassing. It was embarrassing.
It was.
I knew there was a payoff at the end. That this team could figure it out because they're better than they've been. They are better. The coach is better. Joel, despite the fact that it looked like he was on death's door a few times last night, that was the toughest physical challenge he'll face this postseason in terms of just getting back out there and trusting that knee and trying for, the full duration of the game. Like, holy cow, am I ready for this? Just thrown right into the fire. That was last night. And he came out the other side, the second half, looking a lot better than I expected. Now, it didn't look promising, and I did think of you, Joe. I was wondering how high your panic meter was when Toby, my gosh, some of the worst looking shots.
Oh, enough.
Toby, open three, bricked it maybe 3 feet to the left of the rim.
I think it happened a couple times.
Yeah.
He had three of the worst shots I've ever seen in my life.
Some of them were layup shots also.
Like wide open. Yeah, the layup. He missed 3 in a row.
Crazy. Let me just say this on Tobias, and I mean this. Nick Nurse has to make him a 10-minute-a-game player. It's enough. Like, he's a guy that gets 5 minutes in the first half, 5 minutes in the second half. If you prove that you're in some kind of rhythm, I'll play a little bit more. Like, he's in you got to prove to me you deserve an 11th minute. Not you get 30 minutes just because you make $185 million. Enough at Tobias.
That's the offensive side of it. On the defensive side of it, he and Nic Batum and Kyle Lowry did an incredible job on Jimmy Butler. Tobias, thank you for your defensive contribution.
That was Butler's injury.
The offensive, no.
Butler
played the whole game.
He couldn't move at the end.
Okay, and that's because the game was over. I'm telling you, Jimmy Butler played the game.
John, he suffered an MCL injury. He probably isn't going to play tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's already come out. It's an MCL injury.
Which, by the way, stinks because I wanted the Heat to beat whomever and then go against the Celtics and try to take a bite out of them like they did last year. Like Jimmy Butler, who knows if he even plays tomorrow night. So I think the Sixers got incredibly lucky with the Butler injury.
We know Jimmy Butler is tough, and he plays through things.
I admire him. I
expect he'll figure out a way to play.
He's got a shot because he's him, but look,
he fought through it. I'm not gonna say, hey, now they should have won because their best player was injured. That's not an excuse. I'm not making excuses on behalf of the Heat.
Seltzer,
at this point.
Shades of Derrick Rose.
What are you doing?
I whatever anyone says today, I believe in my core that if Jimmy Butler didn't get hurt, they would have lost that game.
But I agree. But let me say,
we had a lot working against us last night.
That's right.
And the including 2 early fouls on Joel that were taking his edge off. He looked tired. We can't get the ball down low to Joel with what was it, Kevin Love trying to front him. That amorphous blob defense was really creating havoc.
It really was.
And they went in at the what were we down 13 points or something at
the
half?
Something
we
like that.
scored
12 at that.
39 points in one half of play. I was thinking of you. I was thinking how bleak your outlook must be.
Yeah, extremely.
And then the greatness of a great coach and a great player who turned it around in the second half.
And Batum. Guys,
And
let's
Nico
go.
Batum
Mostly
was
Batum.
massive.
More than anyone.
Let's go no further than right now before, like, Viva la France. I mean, this guy saved their ass.
Yeah.
He did.
He took over. And it was just one of those nights. Remember the one shot where he just was going toward the basket, just threw it up almost backwards, haphazardly,
with some spin.
And it went in?
Yeah, I know.
It was just one of those nights for Nico Batum. But his defense was excellent, and he was a big part. Like you say, the injury is what contained Jimmy Butler. Nico Batum, Tobias Harris, Kyle Lowry, they had a big part in that too. And so that's a positive moving forward. You know, Tyrese Maxey, he needs to keep working.
Yeah,
That was a concerning performance for Tyrese last night because they took his confidence. You know, him seeing things he wasn't sure on, you could see the uncertainty in a young player.
I agree.
And we can't have that moving forward. We need Joel in the 30s. We need Tyrese in the 30s because that's how we just perform best. He needs to be better moving forward. But overall, my gosh, the second half, Nick Nurse figuring it out like Zach Wheeler on the mound bodes so well moving forward. And like I said, give Tobias a little bit of credit for the defense. Joel needs to forget that he's hurt, and that was 2 months ago that he was hurt. He's been rehabbing for 2 months. He's getting better at forgetting that he's hurt. And what happens is you go out there, they say you're going to feel weird things in that knee. And last night he probably felt clicks and pops that never happened before. So they kind of scare you. I think that's what happened. Remember when prior to the postseason, whichever game that
Well,
was,
it buckled. His knee buckled
where
again.
he went right into the locker room.
Yeah, I know.
It feels a little different. Something pops a little different. They told him, hey, if anything feels strange, just get right into the locker room. I think that's what he did. It's going to feel different until he gets used to this new setup in his knee and the new brace and everything else. That was the toughest hurdle last night, getting over that in terms of him trusting the knee. And now it's just downhill, or however you want to put it. He will be more comfortable moving forward, which is a great sign for this team.
We'll see where everyone stands on a just crazy game. I mean, look, 215-592-9494. You know, the Embiid thing, I do admire how he summoned in the second half something that seemingly wasn't there in the first half. I mean, I thought the second half was honestly one of the gutsier performances he'd ever given, because I'm convinced he was really hurting in the first half and probably was really hurting in the second half and found a way to, work through it. I mean, that was really admirable. It's also concerning, though, obviously, what we saw in the first half, because, I know that it's encouraging that he was able to force his way through it last night in the end. And that's great. I mean, I think it's a step for Joel. Where it gets more complicated is when the games come more fast and furious. I mean, this is a game. Thank God they don't have to play tomorrow night, and they'll be off until Saturday. But, once the playoffs start, with some exceptions, this is going to be an every other day scenario. I mean, if you have a 7-game series, you're going to play 7 games in 14 days.
High-intensity games, too.
High-intensity. By the way, generally speaking, against better teams. Now, not necessarily every time, because I do think the Heat with a healthy Butler, you can make a case for like a top 3 or 4 team in the Eastern Conference. So, it's a funky schedule and setup here with the Knicks and then the Hawks or the Bucks, and maybe they got a Greek freak and maybe they don't. But know this, like, at some point it's going to get a lot harder. And Joel's going to have to be able to answer the bell repeatedly. But look, last night, first half, he stunk. Second half, it all changed with Brickin' for Chicken. It did.
Yeah.
It did.
It did. The whole like,
the
it almost
vibe.
There was a real lift.
It was like, I don't know if we need a name for this game, Brickin' for Chicken game or whatever. Like, as soon as it happened, I thought, let me put it this way: as soon as the Sixers scored a couple points after Brickin' for Chicken, with 6 minutes to go in the third quarter, I thought, this could be like a pickle juice thing. Not that pickle juice turned the game around in the middle of the game, but like
how we remember.
Yeah,
it.
like all these years
Well,
later.
I think it's that Batum. I think it's the Brickin' Chicken Batum game.
Batum. Look, you can't count on that, obviously, every game. You're going to get one of them every 30 games. And it's so rare to see a bench player save the Sixers' butt in a playoff game like that. Like, I thought of Reggie Evans. I don't know how many people thought of him.
Reggie Evans.
He had a game versus the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, like 15 years ago.
About that. He just saved their butt. And then someone hit me up on Twitter, and it was a good call. Shake Milton saved their ass in Game 6
Oh,
versus
yeah,
Atlanta.
that's a great call.
Versus Atlanta, after they had blown Game 5 and before they blew Game 7, Shake Milton down in Atlanta saved them in 2021. So, look, we'll take your calls on all
Batum
this.
was huge last night. Kyle
amazing.
Lowry was also huge last night.
Kyle
Lowry's
up and down.
contribution.
He was up and down.
He's got to stop doing what? Joe, what does he have to stop doing? Whining for a call after every play, and even that one time they point out he actually went for the foul instead of just taking the bucket. Like he's great, but like it's too much.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
At times.
All of this on the table. 215-592-9494. What do you make of what we saw last night? What do you make of what it means moving forward? We'll get to the Phils. We'll get to Jalen Hurts and more. Crazy time in Philadelphia sports. Sixers won. I still kind of can't believe it, but they did. Jetta Cameron, Jenrich, your phone calls on 94 WIP.